I stared out the window, watching the sunset, feeling like a part of me was dying. It had been 6 years since my granddaughter, Emma, had last spoken to me. The pain of being ignored by someone I loved so deeply still lingered, like an open wound. The phone rang, breaking the silence. I hesitated, wondering if I should answer it. But something inside me urged me to pick up. It was Emma. Her voice was cold, detached. Grandpa, I need to see you. I felt a mix of emotions, excitement, fear, and uncertainty. I agreed to meet her at the old coffee shop downtown. As I waited for her to arrive, my mind wandered back to the past. What had happened between us? Why had she stopped talking to me? Emma walked in, her eyes scanning the room until she found me. She looked different, older, more mature. But the spark in her eyes was still the same. Grandpa, I need to talk to you about something, she said, her voice firm but hesitant. I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. What is it, Emma? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She took a deep breath before speaking. I saw your bank statement, Grandpa. The one with $750,000. What's going on? Why have you been living in poverty all these years? I was taken aback, unsure of how to respond. But little did Emma know, I was hiding something even bigger. Something that would change everything between us. Forever. I was taken aback, unsure of how to respond. I had expected her to ask about the money, but I hadn't expected her to be so direct. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. Emma, I don't know where to start, I stammered. Just tell me the truth, Grandpa, she said, her eyes narrowing. Why have you been hiding this from me? From everyone? I sighed, feeling a weight settle on my shoulders. I knew I had to tell her, but I was scared of how she would react. It's a long story, Emma, I began. But I'll try to explain. You see, I've been taking care of something, or someone, for a very long time. Something that's been a secret, even from your parents. Emma's eyes widened, her curiosity piqued. What is it? She asked, leaning forward. I hesitated, unsure of how much to reveal. But something about Emma's expression told me that she deserved to know. I've been taking care of your great-aunt, Emma, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She's been in a coma for over 20 years, and I've been paying for her care out of my own pocket. Emma's eyes widened in shock. Aunt Clara? She asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. Yes, Emma. Your great-aunt Clara. She was in an accident, and she never woke up. But I couldn't just leave her, Emma. I had to take care of her. Emma's expression softened, and for a moment, I saw the little girl she used to be. Why didn't you tell me, Grandpa? She asked, her voice filled with tears. I sighed, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I was scared, Emma. I was scared of what people would think. Scared of being judged. Scared of losing you. Emma reached out, taking my hand in hers. You should have told me, Grandpa, she said, her voice filled with compassion. I would have understood. I felt a lump form in my throat as I looked at Emma. I had been so wrong to keep this secret from her. But just as we were starting to reconnect, a figure walked into the coffee shop, catching my eye. It was a woman, tall and imposing, with a scowl on her face. Emma, I think we should go, I said, feeling a sense of unease. But Emma didn't move. She was staring at the woman, her eyes narrowed. Who is that, Grandpa? She asked, her voice low. I hesitated, unsure of how to respond. But before I could say anything, the woman walked over to our table. "Ah, Emma," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "I see you're finally talking to your grandfather again." Emma's eyes flashed with anger. "What do you want, Mrs. Jenkins?" she spat. Mrs. Jenkins smiled, her eyes glinting with triumph. "Oh, I just wanted to remind you, Emma, that you're not the only one who knows your grandfather's secrets." I felt a chill run down my spine as I watched Emma's expression darken. What did Mrs. Jenkins know? And what was she planning? Mrs. Jenkins smiled again, her eyes gleaming with malice. "You see, Emma, I've been watching you. I know all about your little reunion with your grandfather. And I must say, I'm not impressed." Emma's face reddened with anger, and I could see the tension building inside her. "What do you want, Mrs. Jenkins?" she repeated, her voice low and menacing. Mrs. Jenkins chuckled, a cold, mirthless sound. "Oh, I just want to remind you, Emma, that you're not the only one who knows your grandfather's secrets. I know all about the money, Emma. All about the $750,000. And I know why your grandfather has been hiding it." Emma's eyes narrowed, her face pale. "What are you talking about, Mrs. Jenkins?" she asked, her voice trembling with rage. Mrs. Jenkins leaned forward, her eyes glinting with triumph. "I'm talking about the fact that your grandfather's money doesn't belong to him, Emma. It belongs to someone else. Someone who's been searching for it for a very long time." I felt a chill run down my spine as I watched Emma's expression darken. What was Mrs. Jenkins talking about? And who was this person who was searching for the money? Emma's eyes flashed with anger, and she stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "That's not true, Mrs. Jenkins," she spat. "My grandfather's money is his own. And he can do whatever he wants with it." Mrs. Jenkins chuckled again, a cold, mirthless sound. "Oh, Emma, you're so naive," she said. "You really think your grandfather's money is his own? Think again, Emma. Think again." And with that, Mrs. Jenkins turned and walked away, leaving Emma and me staring after her in shock. "What was that all about, Grandpa?" Emma asked, her voice trembling with rage. I sighed, feeling a weight settle on my shoulders. "I don't know, Emma," I said. "But I think we're in trouble." Emma's eyes narrowed, her face pale. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice low and menacing. I hesitated, unsure of how to respond. But before I could say anything, Emma's phone rang, shrill and insistent. She looked at the screen, her eyes widening in shock. "It's a private number," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know who it is." I felt a chill run down my spine as I watched Emma's expression darken. Who was calling her? And what did they want? Emma hesitated for a moment, then answered the phone. "Hello?" she said, her voice trembling. There was a pause, and then Emma's eyes widened in shock. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice low and menacing. There was another pause, and then Emma's face went white. "No," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's not true." And with that, Emma's eyes locked onto mine, filled with a mixture of fear and desperation. "Grandpa," she said, her voice trembling. "I think we're in trouble." Emma's eyes were wide with fear, and her voice was shaking as she spoke. "Grandpa, I think we're in trouble," she repeated. I could see the panic rising up in her, and I knew I had to act fast to calm her down. "Emma, what's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Who is it?" Emma hesitated, her eyes darting back and forth between me and the phone. It's someone who knows about the money," she stammered. "They're saying that you stole it from them, Grandpa." I felt a surge of anger and fear, but I knew I had to stay calm. "That's not true, Emma, I said firmly. I didn't steal anything. I earned that money fair and square. Emma looked at me uncertainly, and I could see the doubt in her eyes. But Grandpa, they're saying that you're a thief, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They're saying that you're going to go to prison if you don't give them back the money. I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead as I listened to Emma's words. Who was this person, and what did they want? I knew I had to find out, and I knew I had to do it fast. Emma, I need you to stay calm, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We'll figure this out together, okay? Emma nodded, but I could see the fear in her eyes. Okay, Grandpa, she said, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath and tried to think clearly. Who could be behind this? And what did they want? I knew I had to find out, and I knew I had to do it fast. I looked at Emma, and I saw the fear in her eyes. I knew I had to protect her, no matter what. Emma, I need you to go home and stay safe, I said, trying to keep my voice firm. I'll take care of this, okay? Emma nodded, but I could see the uncertainty in her eyes. Okay, Grandpa, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I watched as Emma got up and walked out of the coffee shop, her eyes scanning the streets nervously. I knew I had to find out who was behind this, and I knew I had to do it fast. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number, my heart racing with anticipation. Hello? A voice answered on the other end. It's me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need your help. There was a pause, and then the voice spoke up again. What's going on? It asked. I'll tell you everything, I said, taking a deep breath. But you have to promise me one thing. What's that? The voice asked. You have to promise me that you'll keep Emma safe, I said, my voice firm. No matter what happens, you have to promise me that you'll keep her safe. There was a pause, and then the voice spoke up again. I promise, it said. I'll keep her safe, no matter what. I felt a surge of relief, and I knew that I could trust this person. I took a deep breath and began to explain everything, from the money to the mysterious phone call. As I spoke, I could feel the tension building up inside me. I knew that I was in grave danger, and I knew that I had to find out who was behind this before it was too late. As I finished explaining the situation to my contact, I could feel the weight of the world bearing down on me. I knew that I had to find out who was behind this, and I had to do it fast. I need you to dig up everything you can on Mrs. Jenkins, I said, my voice firm. I want to know who she is, what she's after, and why she's trying to scare Emma. My contact nodded, even though I couldn't see her. I'll get right on it, she said. But in the meantime, I need you to be careful. If Mrs. Jenkins is involved, we don't know what she's capable of. I nodded, even though I knew my contact couldn't see me. I will, I said. I'll be careful. But I need you to find out what's going on. There was a pause, and then my contact spoke up again. I'll get started right away, she said. But in the meantime, I need you to meet me somewhere safe. We need to talk in person. I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. Where do you want to meet? I asked. The old warehouse on 5th and Main, my contact replied. I'll meet you there in an hour. Come alone. I nodded, even though I knew my contact couldn't see me. I'll be there, I said. I hung up the phone and looked around the coffee shop, feeling a sense of unease. I knew that I was being watched, and I knew that I had to be careful. I got up and walked out of the coffee shop, my eyes scanning the streets nervously. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. I quickened my pace, my heart racing with anticipation. I knew that I had to get to the warehouse and meet my contact. I had to find out what was going on, and I had to do it fast. I turned a corner and saw the warehouse in the distance. It was an old, abandoned building, with broken windows and a crumbling facade. I felt a sense of trepidation as I approached the building, but I knew that I had to go inside. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door, my eyes scanning the dimly lit interior. The warehouse was empty, except for a figure standing in the shadows. "Over here," my contact called out, her voice low and husky. I walked towards her, my heart racing with anticipation. As I got closer, I saw that it was a woman, with long, curly hair and piercing green eyes. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice firm. The woman smiled, her eyes glinting with amusement. "My name is Sarah," she said. "And I'm here to help you figure out what's going on." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "What do you know about Mrs. Jenkins?" I asked, my voice firm. Sarah's smile faltered, and she looked serious. "I know that she's not who she says she is," she said. "I know that she's involved in something big, something that could put you and Emma in danger." I felt a surge of fear, and I knew that I had to act fast. "What is it?" I asked, my voice firm. Sarah hesitated, her eyes darting back and forth. "I'm not sure," she said. "But I think it has something to do with the money. And I think it has something to do with Emma." I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead, and I knew that I had to find out what was going on. "Tell me everything," I said, my voice firm. Sarah nodded, her eyes serious. "Okay," she said. "But you have to promise me one thing." "What's that?" I asked, my voice firm. Sarah's eyes locked onto mine, and I saw a glimmer of fear there. "You have to promise me that you'll protect Emma," she said. "No matter what happens, you have to keep her safe." I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. "I promise," I said. "I'll keep her safe, no matter what." Sarah nodded, her eyes still locked onto mine. "Okay," she said. "I'll tell you everything." She took a deep breath and began to explain. "Mrs. Jenkins is not who she says she is," she said. "She's actually a former CIA agent, and she's been using her skills to manipulate people and get what she wants." I felt a surge of surprise, and my mind began to spin with possibilities. "What does she want?" I asked, my voice firm. Sarah hesitated, her eyes darting back and forth. "I'm not entirely sure," she said. "But I think it has something to do with the money. She's been tracking it for months, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to get it." I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead, and I knew that I had to act fast. "We need to get Emma to a safe place," I said, my voice firm. Sarah nodded, her eyes serious. "I agree," she said. "But we need to be careful. Mrs. Jenkins has a lot of resources at her disposal, and she's not going to give up easily." I nodded, my mind racing with possibilities. "I know a place where Emma can be safe," I said. "But we need to get her there without being followed." Sarah nodded, her eyes locked onto mine. "I have an idea," she said. "Follow me." We quickly made our way out of the warehouse, our eyes scanning the streets for any sign of Mrs. Jenkins or her accomplices. As we walked, Sarah explained her plan. "We'll take Emma to a safe house on the outskirts of town," she said. "It's a secure location, and we can keep her safe there until we figure out what's going on." I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. "Let's do it," I said. We quickly made our way to Emma's location, our eyes scanning the streets for any sign of danger. As we approached the safe house, I could feel the tension building up inside me. What would we find when we got there? And would we be able to keep Emma safe? We arrived at the safe house, a small, nondescript building on the outskirts of town. I knocked on the door, my heart racing with anticipation. The door opened, and a tall, imposing figure stood before us. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice firm. "I'm here with Sarah," I said. "We're looking for a safe place for Emma to stay." The man nodded, his eyes locked onto mine. "Come in," he said. We quickly entered the safe house, our eyes scanning the interior for any sign of danger. The man introduced himself as Jack, and he explained that he was a former Marine who had been working with Sarah to keep Emma safe. As we settled in, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. I looked around the room, my eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. And then, I saw it. A small, almost imperceptible movement out of the corner of my eye. I spun around, my heart racing with anticipation. But there was nothing there. I turned back to Sarah and Jack, my eyes locked onto theirs. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice firm. Sarah's eyes darted back and forth, and I could see the fear in her eyes. "I don't know," she said. "But I think we're in trouble." And with that, the lights went out, and we were plunged into darkness. As the lights went out, I felt a sense of panic wash over me. I knew that we were in grave danger, and that Mrs. Jenkins and her accomplices had finally caught up with us. I heard Emma's voice, trembling with fear, as she called out for me. I quickly moved towards her, my arms outstretched, and wrapped her in a tight hug. "I've got you, Emma," I whispered, trying to comfort her. "We're going to get through this together." But as I looked around, I saw that we were surrounded. Mrs. Jenkins and her accomplices had us trapped, and they were closing in. I knew that we had to think fast, or else we would be caught. And then, I remembered the words that Sarah had spoken earlier. "We have to protect Emma, no matter what." I knew that I had to do whatever it took to keep Emma safe, even if it meant putting myself in harm's way. I quickly scanned the room, looking for any opportunity to escape. And then, I saw it. A small window on the other side of the room, partially hidden by a curtain. It was our only chance. I quickly grabbed Emma and made a run for the window. We burst through it, and found ourselves on the roof of the building. The cool night air hit us like a slap in the face, and we stumbled forward, trying to get our bearings. But as we looked around, we saw that we were surrounded by the city. The street stretched out before us, a seemingly endless expanse of concrete and steel. We knew that we had to keep moving, or else we would be caught. We started to run, our feet pounding the rooftop as we desperately tried to escape. But as we ran, I could feel the weight of our pursuers bearing down on us. They were closing in, and we knew that we couldn't outrun them forever. And then, just as we were starting to lose hope, I saw it. A glimmer of light in the distance, shining like a beacon in the darkness. It was the police station, and we knew that we had to get there if we wanted to be safe. We poured on the speed, our hearts pounding with excitement and fear. We could hear the sirens blaring in the distance, and we knew that help was on the way. And then, just as we were about to reach the police station, I saw Mrs. Jenkins. She was standing on the rooftop, her eyes blazing with anger and hatred. She was determined to catch us, no matter what it took. But as she lunged at us, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. The police had arrived, and they were closing in on Mrs. Jenkins. They surrounded her, their guns drawn, and I knew that it was all over. Mrs. Jenkins was caught, and we were finally safe. I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I hugged Emma tightly. We had made it, and we were finally free. As we walked into the police station, surrounded by the officers who had saved us, I felt a sense of closure. We had been through so much, and we had finally come out on top. And as I looked at Emma, I knew that I would do anything to keep her safe. I would fight to the death to protect her, and I would never let anyone harm her again. We had been through hell, but we had come out the other side. And as we walked out of the police station, hand in hand, I knew that we would never be apart again. We had been through too much, and we had come too far. We were a family, and we would always be there for each other. And as we walked off into the sunset, I knew that we would always be safe. We had found our happy ending, and we would never let it go.